Welcome to the 37th AFCEA Hawaii and International TechNet Indo-Pacific Conference titled From Data to Dominance Through Partnership. I am Captain Eric Deha from U.S. Pacific Air Forces, and it is my pleasure to be your MC this morning. As a courtesy to the opening ceremony and our other guests, we ask that you take this moment to silence any personal communication devices. At this time, we will ask that you stand and remain standing for the posting of the colors presented by the DISAPAC Color Guard and the playing of both the national and Hawaii national anthem. The DISAPAC Color Guard will now present the colors. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Please take your seats. I would now like to welcome to the stage Jeff Bloom, past president and board of directors, AFCEA Hawaii, for opening remarks.
Thanks, Captain. Good morning and aloha, everybody. Welcome to Hawaii. For those of you that haven't been here this year, this is our second TechNet Indo-Pacific in 2022. So again, we appreciate everybody making the journey out here twice. We'll go back to our normal schedule starting in 2023. At this time, I would like to introduce Linda Newton, SES retired, president of AFCEA Hawaii.
Aloha. Okay, we got to go louder. Aloha. All right. On behalf of AFCEA International and AFCEA Hawaii, welcome back to Hawaii for TechNet Indo-Pacific. We are truly happy to see all of you here. And I think we have a record participation in our opening ceremonies, so welcome everybody. I am Linda Newton, the AFCEA Hawaii chapter president. AFCEA Hawaii was established in 1953, almost 70 years ago. And the first TechNet in Hawaii was conducted about 36 years ago. Was started by Donna Russell and some of her cohorts at the time. We have a full conference this week. If you haven't had a chance to download the TechNet Indo-Pacific app, please do so. It's different than the 365 app that you've used in the past. Go to the App Store on your phone and you can get it. It has all the information and the schedules and the speakers and their bios and everything that's going on. We have many keynote speakers. We have lots of panels. We have breakout sessions. DISA has a whole host of things. First Corps has a presence here this week. We have continuing education unit sessions. I would like to share that AFCEA Hawaii has contributed over $2 million in scholarships to local Hawaii students, with over $400,000 in over 130 scholarships in the past 5 years. We have also been pleased to award over $75,000 in STEM grants to local schools and other nonprofit organizations that provide STEM programs to K-12 students over the past 2 years. Please go to our website, afceahawaii.org, for information on our past awardees and how to apply for both scholarship and grants when that application process is open in the future. I would like to thank and recognize all of our AFCEA Hawaii, and we even have some from other chapters, leadership and membership who are volunteers. If you could all stand right now, and I'd like to recognize that we couldn't do TechNet without our volunteers. So please, if you're a volunteer, please stand. I would also like to thank our corporate sponsors who graciously support our chapter throughout your year and our ability to provide value to our members in the community. So we are conducting an inaugural STEM extravaganza today in the Honolulu Suite, which is just around the corner. We're providing opportunities for industry and our K-12 students on the island to interact and experience. So for the adults, it's artificial intelligence, machine learning, and cloud technology. For the kids, no matter what age you are, it's racing a car around a racetrack, doing a wind turbine drone, doing chatbots, doing Minecraft, and doing game coding. So it's an opportunity to reach out to the students and get them excited about STEM. We are also conducting Capture the Flag events tomorrow for local middle and high school teams back in this room, and Thursday for military and college teams back in this room. We have a STEM Innovation Center across in the other tower, in the room right before where the panels are being held. We have 5 shifts of teams, a group of students from elementary, middle, high school teams this morning, another group this afternoon, same for tomorrow morning, afternoon, and Thursday morning. Please go through there. The kids would love to have you. They're Cyber Patriot teams, they're robotic teams. A number of these schools have won awards at the national level and a few at the international level. So please enjoy the conference and the beauty of Hawaii. Looks like great weather all week long. And we also hope that you will join us for TechNet Indo-Pacific next year here at the Hilton Hawaiian Village. Aloha.
Thank you, Linda. At this time, I would like to call Ms. Donna Russell, founding member of the first TechNet conference presented in Hawaii by AFCEA Hawaii, up to the stage. Also, Lieutenant General Susan Lawrence, U.S. Army retired, President and CEO of AFCEA International. Susan. Brandon Lester, Executive Vice President, AFCEA Hawaii. Brigadier General Paul Fredenberg, U.S. Army retired, Executive Vice President, AFCEA International. At this time, I would like to introduce Kahele Puna, who will offer up a traditional native Hawaiian blessing.
O naunai tahala me talehu he alale wano ia nakano o kauno ia e no ine e li ane ho io ka hikima hiti puno oko, hiti puno me ke aloha, aloha aloha aloha
Mahalo. At this time, we would like to open the conference by untying the Maili lei, and I would ask our guests to untie the lei. Okay. All right, mahalo, everybody. Thank you, and the conference is open. I'll turn it back to the MC.
Thank you, Lieutenant General Lawrence, Brigadier General Fredenberg, Linda, Ed, Donna, Brandon, and Jeff for opening our conference. We'd like to thank our supporting partner for today's events, Mark Wiggins, Director, DoD, Fortnite Federal. It is now my sincere pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker. You can find his bio in the AFCEA TechNet Indo-Pacific app. If you have any questions for General Rudd, please text him to the addresses located on the screens, and they'll be provided to him to answer. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please join me now in a warm welcome for Major General Joshua Rudd, Chief of Staff, U.S. Indo-Pacific Command.
All right, good morning and aloha. We're getting a little bit better, Linda. We're trying. We're a learning organization. Hey, I just want to say what an honor it is to be here. So first of all, to the AFCEA team and really to all of industry, thank you for the privilege to be a part of this opening ceremony. And on behalf of Indo-Pacific Command team and Admiral Aquilino in particular, welcome to this event, welcome to Hawaii. And the commander sends his regrets. I think he was the first one you guys wanted to try to get here, but unfortunately, this guy named Chairman has this event going on right now that's got all combatant commanders across the globe tied to a VTC screen right now. So unfortunately, you got me, which means I can give you a pretty good perspective and overview of where the Indo-Pacific Command team looks day in and day out. But if you ask any really, really hard questions, especially on the tech front, I'm going to phone a friend in the front row named Mark Miles because he's the real brains behind Indo-Pacific Command's tech capabilities, our communications infrastructure, et cetera. But I also want to acknowledge the fact that you really have some great representatives of the components throughout this conference. So I'm tracking that you'll have keynote speakers throughout the event, and it looks like every one of the service components is going to be represented in that as well. So I think throughout the entirety of this conference, you'll have good representation from Indo-Pacific Command, and certainly it should be a fruitful interaction, dialogue, conversation throughout. So again, I just want to say what a privilege and honor it is to be a part of this, and I'll offer you a little bit of perspective on how Indo-Pacific Command is looking at the tasks that we've been assigned from the department, which is integrated deterrence. If my boss was here, I think he would stress 2 points to you. Every day we wake up, we look at the Indo-Pacific region and we ask ourselves, what more do we need to do to avoid conflict? And then we would quickly ask ourselves, and if that doesn't work, what do we need to do to be prepared to fight and win? The second thing that I think he would convey to you is that everything that it will take to achieve integrated deterrence, to deliver those effects across a joint, all-domain, allied and partnered enterprise needs to happen faster. And so I think it's appropriate that you all are here to tackle some of these challenges and questions to support us, and I thank you in advance for the work that you do and that the topics that you'll explore and some of the challenges that you'll talk about throughout the conference. When Admiral Aquilino took command of Indo-Pacific Command, he challenged us to do two things. He said, seize the initiative, and in doing so, think, act, and operate differently. Because again, back to a previous point, time is not on our side. The entirety of the problem set is so massive, and our adversaries are only continuing to increase their capability and capacity and accelerating the time at which they could decide to achieve their objectives by force. And so we're focused on that laser-like day in and day out, and our approach to deliver integrated deterrence is really based upon those two themes, seizing the initiative and thinking and acting and operating differently. And certainly you all have a role to play in that. I think part of the theme of the conference is data dominance. And so I figured I'd give you a little bit of data from the perspective of Indo-Pacific Command, just to give you a greater appreciation, if you don't already have it, of the entirety of the Indo-Pacific AOR. We are the oldest and largest of the 6 geographic combatant commands. 52% of the Earth's surface is within our area of responsibility. That's from the west coast of the United States to the Indian and Pakistan border, from the Arctic to the Antarctica, or as we like to say, from Hollywood to Bollywood. The Indo-Pacific region is home to 36 nations. It's got more than 50% of the world's population within it. 4 of the 5 largest economies in the world reside in the Indo-Pacific. 9 of the world's 10 busiest seaports are in this area of responsibility. 7 of the 10 largest militaries, and 5 of the world's 8 nuclear weaponized powers. The size and scope of this region is enormous, and the challenges that it presents to us as a nation and on the national security front are equally as massive. Just to put some of those numbers in context, it's estimated that in the next 10 years, the Indo-Pacific region will host 2/3 of the world's population and 2/3 of the world's global economy. And we could argue that for those reasons alone, this is the most consequential theater in the world. Now, we know it's not the only one, and we know our nation is busy, and rightfully so, focused on assisting allies and partners in the European theater as well as the rest of the globe. But the numbers of this AOR and the data behind it is what drives us to challenge ourselves to seize the initiative and to think, act, and operate differently on a daily basis. Just to put a little finer point on some of the security challenges, as if the entirety geographically and from economic and a population standpoint wasn't enough, we've got 6 major threats that we look at daily. What's the top 3 priorities? The department leadership has said on occasion, China, China, and China. But oh, by the way, we also have the DPRK, we have Russia in this theater, we have violent extremism, and we have an area of the world that is incredibly prone to disasters. Most number of volcanoes, most number of earthquakes. Climate change is rapidly presenting problems to many of the nations within this AOR. And that's what keeps us busy. I would argue or contend that North Korea is probably or potentially the most immediate threat, just given their continued behavior and activity. Last month in particular, a number of missile launches, ICBMs, to include launching one over one of our treated allies, Japan. That's cause for concern. But I would tell you, in line with the national defense strategy and the national security strategy, it's China that's the pacing threat. So I'll just spend a minute on China, if you'll allow me. We're paying close attention in the wake of the 20th Party Congress that now has put Chairman Xi in the leadership position for an unprecedented 3rd time. And we don't expect their activity to lessen in terms of their aggressive behavior, their pressure campaign on Taiwan, their infraction of sovereignty within the Indo-Pacific AOR and around the globe, frankly. They are prone to coercion, co-option, and corruption. That's how they do business. That's the opposite of our values. And we're hopeful that our allies and partners and the nations within the Indo-Pacific AOR recognize that, and it's our responsibility to do everything we can to reassure them and bolster them. They use domestic law to threaten and intimidate other nations. And then they rapidly leverage military capability, which is growing daily in terms of capability as well as the capacity of it to seize their initiatives. Their military modernization program is building at a pace that far exceeds ours, which again drives us to have to think, act, and operate differently. We know that the U.S. alone won't tackle this challenge. We know that we have to do it in concert with our allies and partners in the region. And we know that we need to increasingly figure out ways to integrate all of our capability and capacity, not only within the U.S. military, but across allies and partners. Again, the approach that the department has given us and directed us to follow is integrated deterrence. We know that requires not only for us to think, act, and operate differently as a military, but it also requires a partnership with industry, and that's what this conference represents. And again, we're grateful for the support. We look forward to the opportunity and the interaction that will take place. I'll touch just a minute on how we're looking at our capabilities, our objectives, and what that entails for you as industry, and in particular, the tech experts and the companies that provide support to us and will help us solve some of these challenging problems. The number one priority that we have is protecting our force. And we'll do that through a number of initiatives. It could be 360-degree radar and missile initiatives throughout the theater, but it could also be as simple as how do you protect an individual at the edge of the battlefield on a personal device. Because in the competition phase, it's not necessarily tactical radios or big satellite dishes or long-range fires that present an opportunity to threaten our force. In the digital age, you all know far better than I do, we are continuously leaving opportunity and presenting a signature that can be exploited. So protecting the joint force is the first thing that we think about when we think about technological advantage and the way we need to modernize and continue to improve our capability and expand the capacity. The second thing that we're cognizant of is the contested space. And again, I would argue even in the competition phase, things are contested. But especially we know when we get into crisis and conflict, it'll be incredibly challenging for our forces to maneuver, and we need to be able to do that. We need to be able to maintain freedom of maneuver. We need to be able to build resilient architecture that if parts of it go down quickly, another part of it picks up that responsibility. And that happens at the strategic all the way down to the tactical edge. We're also looking at how do we improve our all-domain battle space awareness. The efforts like JADC2 are critical, and we're nested with every single one of those across service lines and across the joint all-domain force. Employing integrated fires is something that we hope we never have to do, but it's something that we've absolutely got to be prepared to do. And the more capable we are of doing that, and the more credibly and as many places that we can provide that, from the ground, from the air, from the maritime domain, we know that in and of itself achieves a deterrent effect. And then finally, the way we're looking at technology supports how we train across the joint all-domain force, but also with allies and partners. We're looking at initiatives like the Pacific Multi-Domain Training and Experiment Capability Initiative that looks to connect all pieces of training, and let's just call it what they are. Training is a rehearsal for combat. And if we can do that effectively through the mission partner environment, then we'll be effective not only in increasing our integrated capabilities, but we'll also deliver a deterrent effect in doing so. And as I stated in the opening, if that fails, it'll be critical for our ability to fight and win. So those are just 4 or 5 concepts that we're looking at that kind of drive our thinking as it relates to technical capability that gives us increased capacity to provide and deliver integrated deterrence. I mentioned JADC2. Again, our primary effort along that line is with our mission partner environment. Again, we know it's critical to be able to connect, talk to, link, and support each other, and that's a challenge. We challenge within our own national forces to do that across services and that echelon, and then when you add to that an additional partner, it's even more so. But I think increasingly we recognize how to get after that. And again, the theme of this conference, data dominance. Through data dominance, we'll achieve data-centric networks vice network-centric networks that enable us to share data quickly across domains and across allies and partners. Every time I talk or visit one of these types of events and conferences, and I should mention that the last time I did this, I literally got handed a note right before I got on stage and said, your boss needs you to come to his office now. I was over at Kaneohe Bay. He was at Camp Smith. It was the same guy I worked for. I was just in a different job. And so I was rushed to get through my remarks. But what we did get to in that short time, and what I expect will be part of the question and answer period, is where do we need help from industry? And there's really three seeds I'll plant with you. Cloud. We need to move the cloud to the edge in Hawaii and into theater and make it part of our resilient architecture and a reconstitutable or regeneratable warfighting system. We need to continue to work cross-domain solutions, not only within our military, but again, as I mentioned, allies and partners. And then finally, we need assured C2, the ability to be resilient, protected, defended, hardened, and as parts of it go down, they need to pop up very rapidly. So I just offer you those three seeds. No doubt you'll explore many other topics throughout the course of the conference. And with that, I just want to say that it's truly a privilege and honor to be a part of this. Thank you for allowing me to offer these opening remarks. And we'll take some questions now. And again, I'll caveat it. If I get a really, really hard question, I'm either going to call Mark Miles or I'll pick on some of the retired friends and family network that I see as part of this. So the experts are truly in the room, but thanks for allowing me to say a few words, and thanks for what you do for our nation. And this is the true test. They've given you an app, they've asked you to send in questions, and then they're going to pop up on a screen right here. So this is the really defining moment of this conference, because if this doesn't work, we got some work to do. Hey, we got one. Uh-oh. All right. This says, what kind of demand signals is the combatant command sending about special operations needs, technologies, or capabilities for the Indo-Pacific, and how will Indo-PACOM leverage special operations differently in the next 3 to 5 years? All right. I don't know if I'm qualified to talk about special operations, but I'll give it a stab. So the demand signal that we send to special operations forces is consistent with what we're sending to all the services, and acknowledging that special operations is in that weird category where they have a service-like entity responsibilities, but frankly, a lot of their requirements and resources come through service lines. So some people would say they like to play on two pots of money, but really by and large, and I'll speak at least from the Army perspective, and my experience is a lot of the demand signal and the capabilities come through service lines if they're not soft peculiar. Because again, what one of the challenges we need is interoperability, and I would argue interchangeability. And that really applies a lot to our allies and partners. If we have capability that enables us to talk across the force, to give us all domain awareness, to give us assured C2, the Special Operations Force is absolutely critical. The other piece that we know is probably going to be closely related to any special operations is a surrogate or an allied and partner force. So again, the ability to talk at echelon out to the edge and then move that data and feed it back into a larger, more conventional architecture is critical. So we need special operations to do what they always do. They move faster. They're usually a little bit smaller and more agile. More than likely, they're going to be in a combined manner. And the technology and the ability to deliver effects, whether it be as a sensor, as an information conduit, or to generate a lethal, non-lethal, kinetic, non-kinetic effect, that's part of the demand signal for special operations. For the Indo-Pacific Command, again, what is incredibly challenging is just the vast area that we've got to cover down on. But I would offer, as a previous SOCPAC commander, that's part of what I was focused on, was trying to figure out how do we, as an economy of force, spread the competitive zone and be in as many places as possible, working with as many partners and allies as possible to give to generate the effect that it's not just about the first island chain and it's not exclusively focused in and around Taiwan. And don't get me wrong, that's the key terrain. That is what occupies a lot of attention. But SOF has a unique opportunity, and part of the design in Indo-Pacific Command with the Special Operations Forces is based on small, persistent, consistent presence with our allies and partners, and again, delivering not only assurance to them, but a deterrent effect. Let me just look at the last, okay, so how are we leveraging special operations differently in the next 3 to 5 years? I would contend that we'll leverage SOF the way they've always been designed to be leveraged, which is, again, by, through, and with, small teams, extending the reach of the Joint All-Domain Force, sometimes in very precise ways, sometimes expanding that competitive zone. But, you know, the roles and missions of Special Operations Forces will adjust to the environment, they'll change with the times, and that's what we expect Special Operations Forces to do. All right, next question, please.
Thank you, sir. Next
Is
question.
that it? I'm done?
No.
Okay.
Next question, sir. China's sovereign telecommunications network extends well into the South Pacific. China uses this to leverage influence. The Solomon Islands government has already signed over security to China, only 3 hours commercial flight from Brisbane. Is there now an opportunity to team with Australia to push north with our own telecommunications network to enable business and internet access for developing island nations, but also enable surge to military when needed?
That's a great question. I don't know that I can speak to the actual infrastructure and the telecommunications network of Australia with great expertise, but I will just let you know this. We have never been closer to our Australian allies than we are at this moment, and we are doing everything we can to make sure that we support and mutually work together. In some ways, we're looking to deconflict because we don't want to duplicate effort, and we can cover down on a larger portion of the area of responsibility if we divide and conquer. And in many places, we're coming together in increased ways. So the infrastructure of the telecommunications piece, you know, that's symptomatic of what China is trying to do throughout the world. And so obviously we're very concerned about it. Obviously we're paying attention to it. And you know, this speaks to one of the aspects that our boss is continuously hitting is a sense of urgency. We as a nation, and not just the military, have to do more, do it quickly, and get in front of the adversary, seizing the initiative like they did in the Solomon Islands. Now again, there are aspects that sometimes are out of our control. Leadership plays a key role in across the globe in any nation, but a lot of times what we hear from nations that are working with the PRC on initiatives like telecommunications infrastructure or security initiatives, and Solomon Islands is another place where, you know, Chinese police are actively there and working to gain a foothold, frankly. So the piece about Australia is we are lockstep. I mean, we just had their chief of defense come through here, their chief of joint ops come through here. We are sharing more than we ever have, and we fight at every turn to break down the barrier to classification restrictions. And again, that speaks to the cross-domain challenges. We have got to be able to move information at the right classification level up and down and across our allies and partners at the speed of need and relevancy. Some of that's policy, some of that's just a decades-old default setting to a classification level that's overclassified. So there's a little bit of culture that has to change, but there's a technological piece to this that gets at how do I move information across domains. I didn't answer the question acknowledging the Australian telecommunication infrastructure. If somebody else wants to take a stab at that, please feel free, but that was a little bit outside my my expertise.
Well, thank you, sir. We do have another question for you. How is Indo-PACOM working to advance federating and connecting through the MPE to enable JADC2 with allies and partners in the future? What are the initial challenges you're seeing?
Yeah, I'll hit this one, and then again, Mark, if you want to jump on this, if not, that's okay too. The first piece of this is just recognizing that that's a critical part of how we're going to not only deter but also fight. So that environment and the capability and the infrastructure that has to accompany that is absolutely critical. And frankly, we're not where we need to be. We need to move faster in this environment, but it's going to feed JADC2 in its entirety. Because again, whether it's an ally partner, surrogate, non-standard sensor, but the ability to be able to move and gain all domain awareness and maintain that throughout the entirety of a crisis and conflict is critical. And so the mission partner environment is the aspect of JADC2 that I think we're focused most heavily on. Not that we're not paying attention. We're actually very involved in every one of the services efforts that's related to JADC2. We just had Project Convergence, as I'm sure many of you were there or part of, or at least paying attention to it. We're tied in very closely with all aspects of it, and this is an extension of it. And so, we're taking a prioritized approach by either who is, in terms of our allies and partners, needs the capability most quickly, Australia obviously being a key part of that, but then also who's where in terms of their development and how do we leverage the advances and gains that they've already made. So this is truly a team of teams approach, a nation to nation approach, but it's a critical aspect to how we're supporting the JADC2 modernization efforts.
Thank you, sir. We have time for about 2 more questions.
Okay.
So the first one for you here is, you mentioned how important the Indo-PACOM AOR is. Given the drawdown in the Middle East, is Indo-PACOM fighting to shift the DoD service budgets to reflect the increase in maritime requirements, vice land forces in the past 30 years?
Is Indo-PACOM working to shift the budgets in DoD? Absolutely. I mean, what GCC is it? Here's how we approach the resourcing conversation. We've been given a mission, been tasked by the Secretary to achieve and deliver integrated deterrence across a massive portion of the world against the #1 pacing threat. And again, as I mentioned, they're not the only actors in this theater. So what works with one probably is going to enable an effect against another and vice versa. So we've been given a mission, a set of tasks to do, and then we came back, developed a strategy and a comprehensive campaign, delivered that back to the department. It was approved. And so really, now we're in the assessment phase. Been moving out for over a year against this campaign approach. We kind of framed the problem in the as is. This is what is currently. This is what our capability, our capacity, our posture, et cetera, is within the region, and this is what we think it needs to be. And so everything that we do kind of gets packaged up in those phrases, as is and to be. We try to be objective and unemotional about it. We lay out our requirements just like every other combatant command does. And then we let the process work. We try to encourage and remind the national leadership that there is a prioritization. And the number one priority is within this theater. And so part of this is just about the ability for us as a nation to have the strategic discipline to resource the efforts against that pacing threat. Incredibly difficult because, again, the here and now, what's got a lot of attention is the situation in the Ukraine, rightfully so. I mean, again, we don't contest that. We just politely remind the leadership that the pacing threat is here, the tasks you've given us are these, and this is the capabilities that need to come with it. And so constant engagement on that one. Probably no less than 50% of our time is spent in conversations with the building, and it's all driving towards how do we make sure we're resourced appropriately to deliver the integrated deterrence that we've been tasked to deliver, and, if needed, be able to fight and win.
Thank you, sir. We have one more question for you this morning. How can U.S. companies learn about and address mission partner or foreign nations through a specific Indo-PACOM office or through separate initiatives in various functional areas?
That's a great question. I mean, I think part of it is just the interaction with Indo-PACOM, but you may have actually identified something that we need to put a little thought and additional effort towards is, what it almost sounds like is a liaison office that comes out and has direct lines. I don't know if that's the right construct, but I'm going to take that one as a do-out. I like the question. I like the way it's thinking about the problem, and I'll take it as a do-out. I know that's not a satisfying answer, but I actually appreciate the question because I'm not sure that we have a very clear mechanism. We have a process when we interact with industry. As you can appreciate, again, the extended friends and family network, many of you within the crowd today, part of how you're successful is you call up friends and you get a little time on the calendar, and you kind of make your case. So you can appreciate that there is no shortage of outreach and there is no lack of willingness by industry to support. A lot of that just kind of works its way through legal and then resourcing channels, and then you hope you line it up there. But I like the question, and I think we can do a little more work to help facilitate that. And with that said, we'll wrap it up. But again, Linda and to the team from AFC, thanks for hosting this event. We appreciate the work that everybody puts into this and how you kind of drive industry to help support the nation better. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Please welcome to the stage Brigadier General Paul Fredenberg, Executive Vice President, AFCEA International.
Hey, General Rudd, on behalf of AFCEA International and AFCEA Hawaii, mahalo for kicking off this year's TechNet Indo-Pacific. Your clear and direct comments on both the challenges, the priorities, and opportunities out here in the Indo-Pacific theater were a direct challenge to the group gathered here today, made up of our government, our military, our industry, and our academic partners to come together to solve these challenges and all working together. So thank you for that. AFCEA will be providing a donation to the Friends of the Windward Wounded Warriors on behalf of all of our speakers here this week. And I also want to present you this challenge coin, the coveted challenge coin of the 37th TechNet Indo-Pacific as a token of our appreciation. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it. And now, ladies and gentlemen, please give your attention back to our MC. He's going to cover some of the events and sessions that you do not want to miss today. Thank you.
Thank you, General Rudd, for your comments. They were informative and outstanding. I'd like to put out a few admin notes, as mentioned before. First off, if you have not yet done so, please download the AFCEA TechNet Indo-Pacom app. It's available both in Google and Apple app stores. This will give you the latest updates for all things going on with the conference. At 10:15, there will be a presentation given by First Corps entitled Maneuvering Data in the Pacific, the Key to Decision Making. This will take place in Honolulu 2 room, and at 12 o'clock there will be the ticketed lunch where Lieutenant General James Jacobson, Deputy Commander, Pacific Air Forces, will be our keynote speaker. Also, please visit the STEM Innovation Center located in the South Ballroom 1, where elementary, middle, and high school students and teams will demonstrate award-winning programs and technology, all generously supported by Dell Technology. In addition, there will be an all-day STEM extravaganza in Honolulu Suite 3, where the Hawaii students will have hands-on opportunities to experience technology. This concludes this portion of our scheduled events. Thank you for attending.